Hey everyone, how's it going? Jenazad here. So I wanted to talk about Duet Night Abyss real quick, because this game just came out today and a lot of people have been thinking and talking about this game. It's no longer a gacha game. One of the biggest things that they changed is making it a normal game, not a gacha anymore, which is kind of crazy, because I think this is the first time we've ever seen that, and then Ananta also did something like that recently. So how is this game? What are the goods and bads? Let me first start with some of the bad things about the game, and then go to the good, and then talk about my overall thoughts. So, this game launched, and it has a lot of performance issues. People are having issues of constant loading, people are having tons of crashes. I've heard that on phone, it's insanely hard to even be able to play it at all. I have gotten like some crashes. I've gotten some bugs as well where sometimes I get stuck in a menu thing and I can't do anything. I fought a boss battle where I lost the ability to be able to attack or dodge because I spammed too many emotes. So maybe that's my fault. But essentially, there's definitely a lot of issues, right? But while those are problems, I will not completely hold that against a game because they're things that can be fixed and they're not things that essentially make the game at its core bad. So if those get fixed, well, you know, if those were the only issues, then the game would actually be, I would say, pretty solid, right? That's my opinion. Yeah, playing a game that's not a gacha. Thanks, devs. So they removed the gacha and they've added this different gacha system for only skins. So what do we think about this? Well, there's goods and bads to this as well. So the good thing is you can farm for all the characters in the game. I think that's really swell. Now, you can't farm all of them instantly, right? It's not like you just go into the game and immediately get every single character and be able to grind them in like 5 seconds, right? It takes time. It does take a little bit of time, right? Especially depending on who you're trying to farm, because you have to get to certain levels, account level, to be able to farm some of the later characters as well. Now, if we look at the details of this, there's 3 different things that you can get, and it's a 0.3% rate. And a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, wow, that is trash. Because 0.3%, those are really low odds. But I think one way to think about it, and I'm not sure if this makes it better or worse exactly, but a game like Genshin Impact has a 0.6% chance with 50-50. This is 0.3 with no 50-50. So realistically, isn't it essentially the same chance of getting a 5-star that you want? That's just how I'm looking at it. Also, you might notice that it has these 2 other things. So there's a 0.6%, well, including the guarantee, right? But essentially this 0.3 is broken up into these 3 different things. You can get the character, 25 prisms, or 50 prisms. Those 25 prisms can actually be traded for the entire character as well. So if you get lucky and you get the 50 prisms, then you could get the character plus other stuff because they have this entire shop right here that the prisms use. So when you get a dupe 5-star character, or I guess they don't have 5 stars anymore, when you get a dupe 5-star skin, I guess we could say, and you get those prisms, you can use it on other stuff in the shop. They have all sorts of different cosmetics. They have these things. I have the skin and I have this emote as well. You can get like this scythe, for instance, which looks pretty awesome. And just while I'm here really quick, they also have this entire dye coloring system where you can change all the stuff. A lot of people might know this from a game like Warframe because it has that, but it's cool being able to customize all that stuff, right? I think that's pretty fun. But, so that's essentially how the gacha system works. Now, there is one big problem I will say with this system, but at the same time, I'm mixed feelings. The pity does not carry over for it. Now, a lot of people are going to hear that and say, well, that's total trash, that's terrible. And I do have mixed feelings, I don't like it. But on the other hand, I feel like the whole point of pity carrying over realistically was because of the 50-50 system in gachas. Because most of the time for most gachas, they didn't have the 50-50 system and pity wouldn't carry over, but no one really minded, like it didn't matter. The 50-50 would make it so, oh, I lost it, so I want it to carry over, but in most games it was basically just like, well, if I'm going to start pulling, I'm going to pull until I get the thing. I'm not going to just gamble and do 20 pulls and then go, okay, I'm just gonna wait, right? Most people would basically be pulling until they get it. So that's how the gacha system works for skins, but keep in mind, 0 pay to win with that, it does not matter. Now, if we look at the shop as well, you'll notice you can buy a bunch of different things with paid currencies as well. So you can just buy shards of the character if you want. It's 150 of this currency, and you need 30 of them to get a character. You can also go for dupes as well, but you can also farm those dupes too. So 30 of these, how much money is that? I believe it is around $50 to just buy the character outright. And honestly, I think that's a pretty damn good price, because in most games, $50 is getting you like maybe 30 pulls, maybe 40 pulls depending on the game. So I think $50 to just outright buy a character is honestly pretty damn low by gacha standards. So for people who are whales or spending money, they can pay $50 to get the character, and for people who are completely free to play, they can just farm for the characters. So I kind of feel like it's a win-win, while in a gacha system, it's kind of like, it sort of punishes the whale and punishes the free to play a little bit more, right? Because in this game, you can essentially just farm for every single character, but you can't really do that in a gacha because they keep adding characters and then you don't have enough time to get the previous ones, and it doesn't really work. So that's kind of how those systems work overall. You can also buy weapons in the game, but you can also just craft those by playing the game too. Now here's one of the big things. I would say this game is infinitely more similar to Warframe than it is a game like Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact. I see a lot of people compare it to those games, and while I understand it could look that way because, you know, it's an open world game, there's chests around, there's NPCs, it's anime, right? Everything plays way more like Warframe, and the systems are all more like Warframe. The movement, having like the bullet jump and stuff like that, the way that combat feels, it's all much more Warframe. Now I will say, I believe that Warframe has smoother combat. It does feel a lot smoother. If you look at this, you might notice like, it looks a little bit jank, right? But the thing is, it also has a system that Warframe has, where I can attach these demon wedges on. So you saw that attack animation of the spear didn't really look amazing. Well, now I put this on. Now the spear attacks like this. Suddenly it's infinitely cooler, right? So the weapons can completely change their skill sets depending on some of the upgrades. You can also get stuff like, you could probably get 100% increased attack speed, so I could be attacking twice as fast later in the game. You can get all sorts of modifiers to increase AoE of your attacks, modifiers of like being able to use your skills more often, so you could spam it or spam in your ult, getting more recharge. So it has a lot of that customization that you have in a game like Warframe as well, but to people who mostly play gacha games, they probably haven't really experienced that, because most gear is just, you did more damage, you hit a little bit harder. Also, you might notice at the top of the screen there, it said co-op mode. When you go to certain areas of the game, it's just a co-op area. Like, look, there's just people around here. And you can form parties with them, they have a chat, all that kind of stuff, right? And also you can do farming stages in this game, because you can kind of infinitely farm in this game, and so you can do those stages with other players. So there's actually a reason to play with other people. So you could have endless waves of enemies coming your way. You could just be in a call hanging out with people AFK while one guy's just grinding away. And also, you can summon allies. You can do this.
Let's see what we can find
and like,
this
look,
time.
now I have an NPC character that I summoned. I decided which character it was and which weapons they have, and I can level them up and they fight with me. So having that extra characters and just not feeling as alone, I think is a really nice thing, because you don't feel that in most of these gachas. I know that the game Endfield is also doing that, where you have your homies with you, but I think that's a really good thing in this game. Yeah, also, this game's music is honestly banging. Now, next, let me just very briefly talk about the story. So I skip story stuff all the time. I don't really care. I'm here for the action. I'm not playing for the story. I think that the early on story feels fairly generic at first. Feels very just like, okay, it's a gacha story, right? Like, that's what they're going for. Weirdly, it's surprisingly dark. I played the game Chaos Zero Nightmare, which is supposed to be a super dark and horrible world. Somehow this game is way darker than that game, and you actually don't know who's gonna live or die. Whether it's an NPC or playable characters, you actually don't really know what's gonna happen. It doesn't seem to have as much cliche of like, oh, the hero always wins and saves everybody, which I think is a good thing. You're never really sure about any character. Then you get to the second half of the story where you literally swap to a completely different character, even though you look almost the same. And I was kind of skipping through that too, but I was also intrigued by it, and it seemed to have a lot more depth. But keep in mind, if you actually read it all, you might have a different opinion than me. That's just kind of my surface level thoughts. Final thing I'll say about the story is that I think the characters feel like they actually talk like a human being. They don't talk like an anime character, if you know what I mean. Most of these gacha games that you see, people just don't talk normal. They talk in roundabout weird ways, and they basically drag on the dialogue, and it really pisses me off. I didn't really get that same feeling in this game, which I thought was a good thing. It was refreshing. Also, I felt like characters weren't talking really slow, because, you know, in most gachas it'll be like, yes, I had a very nice day. Nobody talks like that in this game. They feel like they're actually talking like a normal human being, who wants to just have a conversation, which I really enjoyed. Your main character also feels like you can actually make some choices and stuff like that, and apparently some of the choices matter at certain points in the story, which I think is interesting. It will either change something that happens or the dialogue, which I think is pretty cool, but keep in mind, not the biggest story guy. So, what else do we have going on in this game? Well, we got stuff like pets. They got like Pokemon pets called Geniemon that you can catch around, which is cool. You can even find rare or unique or shiny ones, which I think is a cool idea. Apparently Warframe is something like this too, but I think is a good idea. Somehow this game has better Pokemon designs than actual Pokemon. I think they're a lot more fun and goofy, but you can just find them in almost any area of the world, which I think is enjoyable. You have your ranged weapons, you have your melee weapons. Now here's one really big detriment and positive to the game. I think a lot of your fun will be decided purely based on what weapon you are using. Some weapons in this game, I think, feel kind of like crap. For instance, I think that the normal sword that I have a lightsaber skin on, it costs like $1 or something. Probably everyone's picking that up. The normal sword, I don't think it feels that good to use. I think it feels very stiff, very awkward. Let me show you really quick. So if I attack with this, it makes lightsaber sounds, by the way. This is the entire attack pattern. You feel very stuck and trapped, and sure, you can dodge out of it, but the attack pattern doesn't really feel that good. While that spear that I was using felt infinitely better, and the katana feels really good. So some melee weapons, some ranged weapons just feel way better than other ones, especially when you start getting some of the like legendary different archetypes, like the saw blade ranged weapon, and like the bow that shoots volleys of homing missiles. So there's some crazy weapons in this game as you get further, but I think a lot of people's experiences might be tainted semi-early on based on certain weapons or characters they're using. Some of the characters play totally differently too. So like for instance, this character, she's able to summon these jellyfish that just kind of constantly spam AoE, right? But if I decide to play this character, Truffle and Filbert, she's a lot more interesting. So she can throw a pig, which I mean is good AoE. Also small characters, for when they slide, they do this, which is pretty goofy. But more importantly, her ult is you get on this pig and you get to attack like this. But more importantly, you get to do this. So some characters have some pretty cool functionality of being able to do some pretty insane movement text or just fun things. And also the pig feels really OP. You're constantly regenning and you do way more damage, but it has like kind of a whatever attack pattern. So this game has some like fun and goofy stuff, and I know Warframe has these same characters and archetypes. People are constantly drawing similarities. They're like, oh, this character is like Gauss Volt, and then another character is like this other thing. Very high inspiration from Warframe. Let's just be honest. Everybody knows that. This game might look like it's a Warframe or a Wuthering Waves or Genshin type game. It is a Warframe kind of game in a Wuthering Waves Genshin type world. So keep that in mind. I think overall, this game is pretty solid at its core. I think it has some very good features, but I also think they really need to polish up on a lot of things. Some of the movement doesn't feel quite good enough. I think that the bullet jump should go farther and be faster. Warframe, there's a lot more momentum-based, like physics movement, which I think is very fun for people. This game doesn't quite have that, right? You can't do this like slide into bullet jump kind of stuff that you have in that game. It's a lot more stiff and a lot more grounded. Also, you'll notice, look at the draw distance. For some reason, shadows only show right next to you. There's all sorts of issues like that. But, however, you want to know what is cool is this like $300 car that you can get in the shop, where this is just a cosmetic. It's just to flex on people. It costs as much as buying 2 of the skins, getting to 90 pity on 2 skins. That's how much this cosmetic car costs. And also, if you summon your homies in, right? They all do it. So honestly, $300 all day, well spent. That's what I'm talking about. So this game, I think it's a mixed bag of they're cooking, but then some things got overcooked and some things are still in development of cooking. If you look at what they've been cooking for 1.1 though, I was very impressed by that. They showed it during the live stream only briefly, which surprised me because it felt like it should be the focal point of their entire presentation. 1.1's graphics are absolutely insane. Like, they look on the level of Arknight's Enfield at least. So this whole game that we see here, this is almost like the beta of the game, and 1.1, which I believe is coming maybe around the end of this year or something, that's like what the game is supposed to look like. So I'm really curious what people's reception is going to be to the game when they start seeing that. But right now, I think the game is pretty decent. I think it's fun. I had a great time just being in a call with some homies and just playing the game mindlessly. It's like a really fun game to just be able to turn your brain off and grind and just play as much as you want. It does have dailies, which can be annoying, but at the same time, I'm not sure if you have to do the dailies all the time, but the dailies give you essentially a currency you can use to attempt to run a thing to get a bunch of fragments for farming characters, if that makes sense. So it can be good to do to farm that stuff up if you're going for a specific character. They give out a good amount of characters for free. All these characters I have right now are free, like you don't pull, so I have 6 characters, and I believe you... Oh, you also get that character. I forgot I unlocked this character too. So as you go through the story and do certain content, they just give you 30 fragments to unlock them. You also get this character for free, and I believe that one other character is free, but I'm not sure who. So this is like the current special banner character, and you have to farm them. There's different farming spots, whether it's like a weekly boss kind of thing, or whether it's just an area you keep farming to get fragments. But either way, I'm not sure how that grind is going to be entirely. It might take more than a week for some characters. I'm not fully sure. I know in Warframe, it was something along the lines of like 3 days of crafting the Warframe and then some amount of hours farming the Warframe, unless you spent any amount of money. So if we compare the two, maybe this game takes a little bit longer, maybe it takes a little bit less. It might depend on how often they give stuff out for events as well. One thing I would like to say is keep in mind, this game has a lot of problems on launch. Like lots of performance problems and, you know, other issues like characters' mouths look really bad when they're talking, all sorts of goofy things like that. But do keep in mind, I really like Wuthering Waves, but Wuthering Waves 1.0, do you remember how the launch of that was? People's phones turning into Chernobyl 2.0, and people having all sorts of lag issues, crashing issues. So that game had a lot of problems, but look what happened to it now. Look how good it is at the current state. So if you think about it, if that can happen, who knows? So all in all, I think it's a solid game. I think it's worth trying if you're interested. Just keep in mind that I think the game starts off a bit slow and then really speeds up and really ramps up as you go on and as you unlock more characters, weapons, as the story happens and develops more. And just overall, I think that you might enjoy the game if you give it a chance. However, I have seen an insane amount of hate for the game, and I think that's fair. It's totally fair to dislike this game for all manner of reasons, but I see a surprising amount of hate, and I think it's a culmination of people who are dissatisfied it's not a gacha, who are dissatisfied that it's an open world game, who are dissatisfied that it doesn't feel more like Warframe, and I think it's a mixture of all these things that is causing a lot of unrest, I could say. Anyways, that's my current thoughts on this game after 1 day of playing. I'm going to continue playing this game, and we're going to see how it is in the future. After I play this game for maybe a few more days, I might come out with another review talking about, like, the end game or other things. But this is what I think at the moment. Thanks a bunch for watching. Hope to see you next time. Rize a hoe? Everyone in that series is a hoe. I would like to go back, sir. I think that's Rebecca falling with me. With the lightsaber.
I found another serum storage.
And the other person's name in the bottom left is called Text Block. You've been permanently banned from DNA. I can throw the pig out.
I found found another serum storage point. I've marked it for you.
Let me get out of here.